Hello, this is our video number 13 when it comes to the pivot table series. So in this point, I will actually be having two pivot table reports. And in those two reports, I would actually want us to connect to one slicer. Yes. So one slicer actually commanding two pivot table reports. It's actually very possible. So before we actually do check on that, I will actually urge you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Then you can also follow me on my X account so that you can build one of the largest data analysis platforms together. So in this point, allow me to actually create two pivot tables. That is one table which will actually be showing us the total amount by product category, and the other one which will actually be showing us the total amount by product. So that's it. So to create a pivot table, you just have to click on the insert tab there. Then tables group, you have what you call the pivot table. So the wall of this table or range is what we had actually given the name PVT. So select a table or a range, which is actually the PVT. Then on this point here, we are going to have our pivot table report in this same sheet. So in this same sheet, and the location will actually be let's say H3, no problem with that. So same sheet 1, you can check. So sheet 1, H3. So that's all. So the moment I actually hit OK there, you'll actually realize that we will be having on H3 a pivot table. So we can now build a report. So drag the amount into the values. Remember, for the values, you just have to drag the numerical fields. Let's say, for example, the discount, the taxes, the amount, something like that, so that it can actually allow us to calculate the sum. It will also allow us to calculate the average to obtain the maximum amount, to obtain the minimum amount, something like that. So they should all be numbers, not text. So we actually wanted the first report to be the total amount by product category. So drag the category into the rows, just like that. So we have the two categories, which is actually the fruits, 693,069. Then we also do have the vegetables, which is actually 336,665. So this is actually the first one. So let's also have the second pivot table report. So let's go into the insert tab, then click on tables group, then select pivot tables like that. You can actually check that the range is actually selected. That's the PVT table, and you are going to add that pivot table report on the existing sheet. Then we actually pick this point here. We can pick H9, just like that. So hit OK there, and you'll actually realize that we do have a pivot table. So it's our time to build a report. So drag the amount into the values, then you just have to drag the product into the rows. So that's it. Now we actually have two pivot table reports. One for the sum of amount by category, and the next one sum of amount by product. So you might actually want to give the names to these pivot table reports. So this one here is for the categories, and this one here is actually for the products. So how do we actually give the names to these pivot table reports? So inside the pivot table analyze tab, we have what you call the pivot table here. You click on it there, and it will actually get you this point here for filling the name. So pivot table name, in this point, because the first one is actually for the category, you can just have category, just like that, and hit enter on the keyboard. The second one here is actually for the products. So you click inside it like that, then pivot table analyze tab, pivot table there, then have products. Hit enter again. So we actually have two pivot table reports here, and we have actually renamed them. So I would actually want us to have a slicer which will actually be commanding this pivot table report 1, which is actually equivalent to the category report. So to insert a slicer, we just go into the pivot table analyze tab, filter group, insert a slicer, click on it there. Then on this point, you have to tick on the category because it's actually commanding the category. So that's it. Hit OK. Now you can actually check that I have a slicer here. So in this slicer, if I click on the fruit like that, you can actually check that the first one there is actually responsive. If I click on the vegetables, the first one is also responsive, but this second one is not actually responding. Now, what if you would actually want to obtain the category for the vegetables on the first pivot table there? Yes, which is actually present to be vegetables, and you also want to check on the performance of the different vegetables here. So you do not want to have the fruits plus the vegetables in the second pivot table report. You also want it to respond to the first one. The first one is actually saying vegetables. So you should also be having the vegetables on this part here. When the first one actually says fruits, then you should also be having the fruits and their amounts inside the second pivot table report. So how do we actually go about that? So before we actually do check on that, I'll actually bring you to this point here. So in this point, you actually realize that I have many Microsoft Excel courses, and these courses have actually been prepared just for you. Yes, they have been prepared professionally, and these videos will actually help you master Microsoft Excel. So that's it. So at $100, you get access into the Google Drive account. And when the website is actually back, your access in the Google Drive account will be shifted into the website. Now imagine getting a deal worth $945 at $100. So that's actually one of the biggest bargains. So you can also come to this point here and get me the work for the projects. So if your work is actually running on a monthly basis, you can subscribe to this monthly retainer. And inside the monthly subscription, it actually goes for $550, and it actually entails cloud in Excel prompting, dashboards, charts, automation, financial forecast, Power BI, pivot tables and models, templates management, all that work per month. It will be $550. On this other end here, you can also check that you can obtain me the one-time task. Let's say AI powered dashboard designs, $150, AI data analysis and insights, $200, AI automation and smart macros, $250, AI enhanced Power BI reports at $300. All the prices are actually fairly good. And I'll also be designing for you the templates, so I can get you the templates. And for the monthly retainer, I will actually be designing for you the template. After designing the template, I manage it for you and deliver it for you. So that's just at $50 a month. That's for the monthly retainer. For the one-time task on the templates, let's say if you want the template on Ultimate Business Dashboard, it's actually $19. This is actually the average price. Personal finance and budget trackers, average price is actually $12. Inventory management system templates, $12. That's the average price. AI powered reporting templates, $22. HR and payroll trackers, $19. Sales performance trackers, $15. So all those are actually favorable prices. So use this email here so that you can actually reach me out for the templates, the projects, and for the courses. Now let's actually make this report here to be responsive to the slicer. So what you actually do is to click on the slicer, get yourself into the slicer tab. Now remember, before clicking on the slicer, that slicer tab is not actually available. So if you click on the slicer tab actually appears. And on this point here, we have the slicer group. Click on the report connections, and you will actually check that this slicer actually works on the category report alone. That's why the category report has actually been checked. So this report here is not actually responsive to the slicer. So what do we actually do? We have to tick on it like that. Then you hit on OK. So after hitting on OK, now if you click on vegetables, now you can actually see it's actually getting me on the category. That's the total sum for the vegetables, which is actually equivalent to 336,665, and these ones here are actually the items which fall on the vegetables category, and these ones are their respective amounts. If you click on the fruits, you can also check that's the same thing. So that's all. That's how you can actually do report connections when it comes to the slicers. So let's also check the next video.